Before we talk about the next Stanley Cup, before we talk about Marchenko, before we talk about any trade deadline blockbuster that might reshape this roster in February, we need to talk about something that is quietly building in Quebec City. Something that could matter to the Montreal Canadiens not this season, not next season, but in the kind of deep, foundational way that defines franchises for a decade. A name is emerging from the shadows of the 2027 draft conversation. And Habs Nation, this one carries a weight that goes far beyond hockey analytics and prospect rankings. His name is James Scantlebury, and he was born in Montreal. Let that land for a moment before we go any further. In a league where the emotional connection between a franchise and its fan base is unlike anything else in professional sports, where the weight of 24 Stanley Cup championships presses down on every player who pulls on that sacred jersey, the possibility of a Montreal-born center developing right here in Quebec, with the Remparts, on the full spotlight of the province's most passionate hockey culture, is the kind of story that transcends statistics and scouting reports. But this is not purely an emotional story. The talent is real, and it demands serious analysis. Scantlebury spent last season with the Chicago Steel of the United States Hockey League, one of the premier development environments in North American hockey, for players his age. At 16 years old, competing against opponents who were older, stronger, and considerably more physically developed, he recorded 16 goals and 23 assists for 39 points in 62 games. He earned a place on the USHL All-Rookie team. Those numbers require context to appreciate properly, because stripped of that context, they appear modest when measured against the astronomical totals posted by some junior stars in easier developmental environments. Here is a context that makes those numbers genuinely impressive. The USHL is not a development league where skilled teenagers can simply dominate through pure talent and athleticism. It is a competitive, physically demanding environment where players regularly face opponents who are 18, 19, and 20 years old with fully developed bodies and 2 or 3 additional years of high-level hockey experience. A 16-year-old who not only survives that environment but contributes meaningfully as a rookie, earning all-rookie recognition, is demonstrating something rare. He is demonstrating the ability to process the game quickly under pressure, to create offense against opponents who should be physically superior, and to compete without the protection of an easier matchup. That foundation, that early hardening against elite competition, is precisely what makes Scantlebury's arrival in the QMJHL so fascinating. He is not coming to Quebec City as an unknown quantity who needs to prove he can compete. He is arriving as a player who has already been tested, already been challenged, already been forced to find answers against opponents who should have overwhelmed him. That experience creates an invaluable competitive intelligence that most players his age simply do not possess. The Quebec Remparts drafted him 9th overall in the 2025 QMJHL Draft, which tells you everything about how that organization values him. They wanted him badly enough to acquire that selection, and then they waited patiently while he completed his year in Chicago, confident that the player they identified was worth the patience. That kind of organizational conviction about a prospect is not common, and it signals clearly that the Remparts intend to build a significant portion of their offensive identity around what this young center can provide. Daily Face-Off July ranking placed Scantlebury 29th overall in early 2027 draft projections, describing his raw talent as one of the most intriguing elements of his profile. 29th overall. And this is before he has played a single game in major junior hockey. Before he has had the opportunity to demonstrate what he can do with genuine offensive zone time, meaningful power play minutes, and a platform that playing for a high-profile QMJHL organization provides. The evaluators who placed him there noted his creativity, his playmaking ability, his skating, and his capacity to manufacture offense in situations where lesser players simply make the safe play and move on. They also noted, with the honest precision that serious scouting requires, that his decision-making occasionally trends toward the spectacular when the simple play would serve the team better. That is a developmental note, not a fatal flaw. That is a kind of coaching point that virtually every highly creative young player receives, because the same imagination that produces breathtaking moments also sometimes produces unnecessary risks when a simpler read would be more effective. The question is whether Scantlebury can develop the discipline to manage that creativity without diminishing it, to know when to attack and when to distribute, to recognize the difference between a play that is difficult and one that is simply not on. His youth scoring history suggests the offensive ceiling is stratospheric. 100 points in 56 games at the 16U AAA level, 36 goals and 17 assists in 30 games at the AM15 level. These are not the numbers of a player whose offense has been manufactured through careful matchup management and sheltered deployment. These are the numbers of a player for whom creating offense is the most natural expression of his hockey identity. Something is done instinctively at every level he has encountered. Now he must do it against the QMJHL's best offensive prospects, against coaches who have watched film and prepared specific game plans designed to eliminate his preferred options, against physical opponents who will test whether his creativity survives contact and pressure. For Montreal Canadiens scouts, who will have extraordinary access to Scantlebury's development given the geographical proximity of Quebec City, this season represents the most important evaluation period of his young career. They will watch him navigate adversity. They will study how he responds when strong defensive matchups take away his first and second options. They will evaluate whether his skating translates to the higher tempo environment of major junior hockey with the same effectiveness it demonstrated against USHL competition. They will also be watching something that analytics cannot fully capture: the intangible quality of a player performing in front of a home province crowd that already knows his name. The pressure playing in Quebec, where hockey culture is embedded so deeply into provincial identity that every young player's development is scrutinized with extraordinary intensity, reveals character. It separates players who perform when comfortable from players who thrive when the stakes are highest and the expectations most demanding. A Montreal-born center who handles that pressure with poise and produces offensively against the QMJHL's best offensive talent is a player who will climb draft rankings rapidly. The hockey world pays attention to stories with compelling narratives, and few stories in the 2027 draft class carry a more compelling narrative than a Montreal kid becoming one of Quebec's premier offensive forces on his way to potentially being drafted by the Canadiens. The 2027 draft is not tomorrow. Montreal's position in that draft will be determined by the results of an entire NHL season, and the Canadiens are building a roster specifically designed to win games rather than accumulate lottery odds. Hughes and his staff will evaluate every player in that class on merit, not geography, not emotion, not the romantic appeal of selecting a hometown player. But merit is precisely what Scantlebury appears to have. Real merit, demonstrable, scoutable, projectable merit built on a foundation of elite youth production, successful USHL competition at a remarkably young age, and the kind of offensive creativity that development coaches dream about working with. If this season unfolds the way his talent suggests it could, if the Remparts give him the platform their organizational conviction about him implies, if the QMJHL's best offensive players cannot consistently neutralize what he creates, then 29th overall in July could look laughably conservative by March. And every goal, every highlight reel assist, every spectacular play produced at the Videotron Center or the Center Bell, or anywhere else along the QMJHL circuit will add another chapter to a story that Habs Nation is already emotionally invested in before it has truly begun. So, Habs Nation, the question is simple and it is profound. Is James Scantlebury the next great chapter in the Montreal Canadiens prospect story? Does a combination of his talent, his background, his developmental foundation, and his upcoming platform with the Remparts make him the most exciting early name to track in the entire 2027 draft class? Drop your takes in the comments below, because prospect conversations like this one are the heartbeat of a fan base building towards something special. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in because the future of this franchise is being written right now, one prospect at a time, one game at a time, one dream at a time. We are in this together. Habs Nation, every single step of this extraordinary journey. Go Habs go!